for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you very much, Chairman Poe, for calling this hearing, and which is jointly being held in your Terrorism, Nonproliferation, and Trade Subcommittee and the Subcommittee which I chair of Europe, Eurasia, and Emerging Threats. During the 1980s, I had the honor of working with and for President Ronald Reagan. Through his leadership and strength, the United States brought about the collapse of the evil empire, the Soviet Union. I would add that there are many people who I worked with during that time period who can't seem to get over that the Cold War is over and are still treating the current Russian government as if it was the Soviet government. We are thankful, however, that the world no longer lives in fear of annihilation and no longer lives with a Soviet Union that is controlled by a diabolical philosophy of Marxism-Leninism, which motivated people to attempt to put on the world a Marxist, an atheistic dictatorship in the name of perfecting humankind. We are thankful that that world has been changed and that reality no longer is present, and that we no longer live in fear of annihilation of a nuclear exchange between those who were motivated by this evil theory, Marxism, Leninism, communism, and the people of the free world. One of Reagan's greatest accomplishments was negotiating and signing the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, which banned 2 entire categories of horrific weapons. I look forward to this hearing today from witnesses about the current efforts to maintain and verify the provisions of that agreement. I look forward in the future to be discussing with my colleagues some of the fundamental information that they have gleaned from their visits to Ukraine and other places, and to have a broader discussion of the nature of the government in Russia today and the threat that it poses or does not pose to the free world as compared to what it was like when I worked for Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. I also want to speak about another power, however, which I think that we shouldn't, when we're discussing this issue, Mr. Chairman, we should not lose sight that we're not just talking about Russia and the United States. We are talking about other nuclear weapons and other countries in relationship to what we're doing with the Russians, and that is, what's Communist China doing, and what are we doing with Russia and other countries that relate to this very issue of strategic weapons with Communist China. I fear that by continuing to focus our arms control efforts only on Russia, while excluding China, we are making a grave miscalculation. Our negotiations with Russia dictate our nuclear posture and define our military capabilities. It should be a major concern that China is not included in these limits, including caps set by the new Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty signed in 2010. Over the past 2 decades, the People's Liberation Army, the armed wing of the Communist Party of China, I might add, has engaged in a massive arms buildup. Their capability has increased in every area. It is illogical to believe that China's strategic forces and their nuclear stockpile have not also, likewise, been expanded and improved. The United States-China Economic Security Review Commission stated in 2012, the PLA continues to modernize and expand its nuclear stockpile. China is now on the cusp of obtaining a credible nuclear triad of land-based intercontinental ballistic missiles and submarine-launched ballistic missiles and air-dropped nuclear bombs. End of quote. We also know, thanks to the research by Dr. Philip Carber of Georgetown University, that China has built some 3,000 miles of underground tunnels to store and to transport their nuclear missiles and warheads. This secret effort by the Chinese military is so massive it is known as the Underground Great Wall. Beyond this incredible infrastructure, China is also researching hypersonic missiles, ICBMs, with maneuvering warheads, which then can outmaneuver our defensive systems. Communist China, in short, and in closing, I'd say, Communist China must be included in any discussion of arms control. And if we focus only on Russia, we are doing a great disservice to the security of our country. Addressing concerns and priorities with Russia does remain important, and the things that are being said today need to be taken into consideration. Ignoring China's strategic weapons is not an option and will lead us to a much more dangerous world. They must be part of this discussion today and hopefully in the weeks ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.